Hey folks, thanks for joining me. I'm Donnie, the Fuzzy Face Fisherman. These are 3 baits I've got tied to my lines looking for largemouth in red dirt country in the month of September. All right, before we get started, I want to apologize. I'm getting a late video out to you guys for the month of September, and I'm sorry. I'll be real honest with you though, I've been fishing. The fishing's been awesome. Let me tell you what I've been doing, right? The month of September, we've got pre-fall and fall bass patterns really starting to set in, right? And what that means is the bass have moved out of the deeper waters. They're starting to school up a little bit again, right? They're moving into the fingers of your bodies of water. They're moving into the channels, so to speak. They're a little more easy to find. And what that means is, well, I've been out in a kayak, right? And one of the first things I've been doing is I've been targeting vegetation. And what's happening is this vegetation is turning brown. Some of the vegetation that come to life and grew all over the springtime is starting to die off. The heat of the summer has killed it. It's dying, it's brown, and it's starting to, whether it's at the bottom of the water or it's at the top of the water, it's all over the place in some of the ponds that I like to fish. And I'm here to tell you, the first bait we're gonna talk about that you're gonna find tied to my lines in the month of September, it's an oldie but a goodie. It's going to be a frog, right? So I've got a couple different frogs I use. I'm not real picky about my frogs. I Spro frogs. I like the Guggen frogs. I like working top water, right? And so if I can get in across the top of the vegetation and find a hole as I'm bouncing this frog across the top of the vegetation, I find a hole in the vegetation and pause. Just dead stick it for a minute, and then work it a little bit more. And you're going to find more times than not, if there's fish out there and they're hungry, you find that hole, and when you dead stick it, wham, they're gonna sink it. And you know, you let them take it, give you a second or two, and then set your hook. The frog, sometimes you can't be real jumpy with setting of the hook. You got to give them a chance to actually get the frog in their mouth. You know, some people like to trim their frog tails, their frog legs. I trim some of mine. I leave some of mine a little bit longer. Sometimes I'll trim one, not the other. I go back and forth. I've tried a little bit of all of it, and I'll tell you they all work. But the first lure I'm definitely fishing with in the month of September is going to be a frog. All right, the next bait you're going to find tied to my lines in the month of September is going to be working that same vegetation I was just talking about with the frog, except we're on the outside of it, right? If I can work my lures in the vegetation on one side and not on the other, this is what I'm going to do when I'm not working vegetation. I'm going to use a fluke. It's gonna look something like this. It's gonna be one of these guys. And there's a fellow on YouTube. He goes by the Fluke Master. He's a big fan of these guys, and I'm here to tell you. I don't know if I'd call it a confidence bait, but it's definitely my go-to bait. I'll hook it up on 3/0 or 4/0 EWG hook, and I'm gonna put a swivel on it, right? And so I'm gonna put probably an 18-inch leader on this guy, right? And I'm gonna put a little bitty swivel because if you don't get this hook dead square in center on your fluke, and I'm talking right down in the center of the nose and all the way, everything's not center, you're gonna get some spin and flip in your fluke. And the best way to combat that is, what I found is put a swivel on there, and the less hardware on your swivel, the better, right? And so I've got this little swivel here. It's got, I'm trying to show you here without dropping it. It's got just your barrel swivel on it, and that's nothing else. It doesn't have any kind of D-clip or your C-clip on it, just a swivel. And that's so, if for whatever reason I don't get it perfectly straight, that swivel is going to keep that line from getting super twisted. I like to fish my fluorocarbon line, and you're going to get super twisted. You reel it up, and you got this spiral thing going on afterwards. I'm not a big fan of that. So I'm going to swivel it up. Gives me a little bit of comfort when as I reel it in, and make sure I'm not going to get too tangled up with my lines. But I'm gonna fish that sucker. I'm gonna pitch it out there, get a good cast on it, and I'll the old jerk, 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 pause, jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, 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 pause, reel it in, and figure out what speed those fish are actually gonna look for. But I like to fish it weightless. Like I said, 18-inch leader. Let the swivel be really all the weight. The swivel and the hook really be all the weight that I need. Cast it out there, give it a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, let it sink, get some depth in there, and then start working that lure. And finesse is the key, guys. I'm here to tell you, these baits really look beautiful if you can work that finesse and get the good action on that lure. Look like that wounded shad, and the fish love the wounded shad in my neck of the woods. So that's the second bait you're going to find tied to my lines in the month of September, is going to be a fluke. All right, so what I found is working the top water with the frog and the vegetation really gets me good action. Working the fluke out in the open water, a little bit more open water, not so much vegetation, gets me good action. Well, what if I've got something kind of more in between? All right, and the more in between option that I'm gonna go for is actually gonna be a drop shot. Something a little bit smaller though, right? I'm not looking for a big drop shot. I'm looking for some lighter tackle, maybe 10 to 12 inch fluorocarbon line. Get down there and a super light tungsten weight, 1/4 ounce tops. As far as your plastics go, I've got here a 13 fishing soft plastic that I'm kind of a fan of, the Vertigo Minnow. This is the second package of these guys I've gotten. I'm just now opening for the first time here, the second package. But this is gonna go in my tackle box because I am going fishing in the morning. And these are the guys that I'm gonna hook up on my drop shot. It's got a nice thick body on it, but the little bitty paddle tail, little dainty paddle tail is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm gonna work this bait, let the weight go all the way to the bottom and work through that dead vegetation, right? It's the vegetation, the rocks. It really bounces well off the bottom, lets you feel the bottom as you work that lure. Because you're gonna cast it out there and you're gonna work it nice and gentle. You wanna feel the bottom with that weight. Let it bounce off the bottom, up over the rocks and up through the vegetation. Hopefully you're not getting hung in the vegetation, and those bass are gonna go for it. Those bass that you're targeting with this is gonna be sitting up off the top of that vegetation, just cruising along looking for their food, right? So I'm gonna rig a weight on the bottom of my line. Again, looking at about an 18 to probably maybe 24 inches or so up my line. I'm gonna tie me a small hook. It's probably in a polymer knot, that way I can keep it all one line. It's gonna be a smaller hook. You're definitely looking for a smaller hook for your drop shot. Everything's gonna be a little bit lighter weight for your drop shot rigging. But once you get it rigged up, like I said, you cast it out there, you drag that weight across the bottom and feel all the lumps and bumps and cracks and crevices across the bottom of that water, or across the bottom of the lake or the pond or the river, whatever you're fishing in, and feel it. And when a fish hits it, you'll definitely feel that one. So it's awesome bait to be working across, especially this time of year. The fish don't want to do a whole lot of chasing. These smaller baits are going to give them what they want this time of year. It's the third bait you're going to find tied to my lines in the month of September. All right, folks, if you're familiar with the channel, you're familiar with our bonus bait. This also happens to be the year of the jig. Again, if you're familiar with the channel, you know I like my jigs this year, 2023. So the bonus bait for this month is actually going to be, I love stirring the pot here, right? So a spinnerbait, right? I'm going to call this an actual jig. This is a jig on a wire, right? And so I love stirring the pot. My wire jig is going to be my bonus bait, right? And so I'm looking for some willow blades, right? Because opposite of what I'm doing with my drop shot, this guy I want to cover some water with, and I want to move it, right? I'm pitch it out there. I want to be able to reel it in real quick, burn it through the water, pitch it out over here, reel it again, burn it through the water, pitch it over there, burn it through the water. I'm actually looking for the fish. This is a great bait to help me find the fish when I'm out there cruising through the kayak, walking down the shore, or even in the boat, stopping here, stopping there, looking for the fish and trying to figure out where it is exactly that I'm going to find them. Generally, this time of year, I'm looking for them on the points, secondary points sometimes. Early in the mornings, you're going to find them in the shallows feeding, or early or late in the evenings, you'll find them feeding in the shallows. Anytime other than that, you're going to find them probably somewhere between deep water and not, right? And so this is what I'm doing to find, this is what I'm using to find those fish and those varying water depths, right? This allows me to cover some water, and you can vary up, change up with your weights, right? If you want to work a 3/8 ounce or half ounce, bounce back and forth, get you a little bit deeper in the water column if you want. But this is my bonus bait for the month of September. I'm gonna call it a wire jig. Hey folks, I can't believe it. We've hit 50 subscribers. I didn't realize it would actually ever happen. Got a couple buddies who said, hey, you should make some YouTube videos about fishing. And here we are, right? So those are the 3 baits that I'm gonna use in the month of September, guys. Let me know what you're using the month of September. I'd be curious. Let me know where you're from, what you're fishing with. Folks, till next time, I'm Donnie the Face Fisherman. Thanks for joining me here in Red Dirt Country. Till next time, tight lines to you.